welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer and career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. From career struggles and anxiety to feeling like nothing is ever going to work out, I'm here to explore all the messy stuff that breaks us down and builds us up. So join me as we transform ourselves and finally ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. We have a great conversation today because it's all about Feng Shui, and I've been wanting to do this forever. Today, we have Laura Morris on the show. Laura has over 2 decades of experience designing harmonious spaces. Through articles, books, workshops, videos, TV appearances, and consultations, Laura has guided thousands of people to shift their energy and revitalize their living spaces. She is also the co-founder of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School, co-host of the Holistic Spaces podcast, and co-author of Mindful Living, a guide to the everyday magic of Feng Shui. Let's dive into the conversation. It's a great one. Welcome, Laura. I'm really excited to have our conversation today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah.
So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
My name is Laura Morris. I am one of the co-founders of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School. I'm also the co-host of the Holistic Spaces podcast, and I'm the co-author of a book, Mindful Living, The Everyday Magic of Feng Shui. All of these are done with my business partner, Angie Cho, and she and I have been partners for almost 8 years now. And yeah, so I've been doing Feng Shui for over almost 3 decades. I dabbled in it for a while, and then it sort of became my full-time gig. Alana and I used to work together when I was in corporate. So my background is actually corporate. I worked in corporate for almost 15 years, and I left it to pursue my own thing. Yeah, and that took many different forms.
Well, first of all, I'm obsessed with Feng Shui, and I've been talking to my audience forever about wanting to have a Feng Shui specialist on. So then I realized that we work together, been following you, and I was like, it has to be Laura to introduce our audience to Feng Shui because we work together at Harlequin Books. That's where I remember you.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have worked. I think you were the boss to my boss at the time in marketing. And so we've had a little bit of that career overlap, which is kind of interesting. And I have to give a shout out to how beautifully designed your book is because I thought so appropriate because you came from that world.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing that you left because I was still working at Harlequin. You left to pursue something else. I didn't know too much about it. But how did you go and make that decision from, okay, I'm having my corporate job, which provides a lot of safety and security, to I'm going to pursue something else?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have an excellent husband. I have a great partner in life. And so we kind of almost did this swap where there was a point when Harlequin was one of the best places I ever worked at. I loved that place. I loved everyone I worked with. I made some of my best friends. I was, it was a big decision when I left. My boss was fantastic. Like, people are like, why'd you leave? And it was like none of the reasons typically.
Yes.
So, but I had the luxury of being able to do it because my husband had a really solid job. And so there was a point where my husband wanted to try something kind of different and a little more risky. And I was at Harlequin, which was super stable, and I had a great job. And so we kind of swapped like a 2-year gap. And then so he did it, he got established, and then I went and did it. And he's like, go for it. And so I was able to make that leap and leave a very secure, very, very well-paying job.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I had a young child at the time. I'm not going to lie. I had a kid under a year old when I was doing it. That had a lot to do with it as well. My son at the time, I was working a lot at Harlequin, and there was, I think, there was track for me to be going and traveling more. At that point in my life, I just really wasn't sure that's the track I wanted to take, although they had given me so many lovely opportunities. Again, great place to work. So I just, I took the leap. And I think it was more, if I had to think of the reason why, I think it was to pursue something more creative. Harlequin was creative and they gave me a lot. And I think if I'd say that to my boss at the time, he would have been like, what do you want to do? I'll make you something creative. But it's different. Like when it's your own thing, right? Your own creation. And I got to do a lot of creative things within a corporate framework, but you're limited. You have guardrails and serious guardrails, and you're told, it has to be done within this certain way. And of course, it has to deliver really specific metrics. So I wanted to pursue something more creative. I wanted to do something smaller scale. I wanted it to be like, I'm an artist as well, background in design. And so I actually ended up going back to school for design as well. And then started that path. And then I ended up in feng shui.
So interesting. And I'm going to agree that, well, Harlequin for me was my favorite corporate job, like hands down out of all the ones I've ever had. There was a lot of freedom for creativity.
Mhm.
There was freedom for growth. There was so many pluses to it. But what you just said about having the autonomy, the creativity, that you can do it on your own without the guardrails. I think there's just so many creative people out there or entrepreneurs out there that have that feeling that they have to pursue it. Was it
Mhm.
something that just you had to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'd been at Harlequin over 10 years, and I was getting to the point in the job where I was not going to be as creative anymore. I was going to be basically managing and driving large groups of people to do things. And while part of it is I love that because I like working with people, you always like what you're good at. But I also just found it wasn't scratching an itch. And I was also a lot younger. Like, this was, oh gosh, this is 20 years ago, right? So
Mhm.
I was a lot younger. And there's a certain point in your life, I think, that you're kind of like, you get this kind of like itch that you need to do something different and creative. Whether that's the right decision or the wrong decision, it is just something that, you want to just sort of discover on your own and just say, I don't know, I just want to figure it out. So I think it was partly that. It was this, I think some people call it like your Saturn return. It's like the second time
Oh,
around of your
yeah.
Saturn return. So I think, and also I had a young child, my priorities changed. So I think, and I hear the same from a lot of our students. So, in my program, because I teach people how to do feng shui, we have a lot of younger, mostly women, coming through the program, and they're experiencing the same thing. They just want to do something more. They don't even know what it is sometimes. And so I had a little bit more of an idea of what I wanted to do, but I think it was this kind of time of life. I just got to do something different.
Yeah, and I hear that with so many people as well. They don't even know what it is, and you just said something really interesting there. You're like, whether it's a mistake or it's a right choice it doesn't really matter. It's
Mhm,
if you're pulled to do something, I think you have to just follow the breadcrumbs and give it a shot.
mhm,
And I know I've personally gone into a lot of things, this podcast, a whole bunch of things, and I don't really care if it works or not. Like, that is, I know there's a financial risk sometimes with things, and obviously leaving a job is a huge decision. And I just went and left Harlequin as well after 5 years there, and I had
mhm,
really nothing to go to.
mhm.
It was just my time to go. So there's a leap of faith that has to happen, and I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. So why feng shui? You also did, I know you do interior design, but
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the feng shui piece.
Yeah. So, again, it was kind of, it's a journey. You never know where you're going to end up. But I'd been dabbling with feng shui for decades. Like in the 90s, I was sort of, into it, and it took a little bit of here and there. And then when I started doing the design, so I did, did a little bit of design and in decorating courses. And then I actually started getting clients, and I actually was quite busy. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the creative part of it. So I ended up starting my own little design, firm. And I was, helping people really, visualize bringing their spaces together. I was kind of doing the styling and the decor in the last part, which is what I love to do. And after a time, I started to practice a lot of yoga. I was sitting, so I was going to a sangha. So I was sitting at a sangha practicing Buddhism. I was doing a lot of other mindfulness practices at the time. And, it just, there was kind of a disconnect for me between like people were spending $20,000 on, drapery, treatments, getting more stuff into people's home. And then this energy work or this, mindfulness practice that I was doing. And I sort of wanted to find something that would combine the two, would dovetail. And, I had playing with feng shui for a while. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's an energy practice where you're working with spaces. And so I just started to, I'm going to be a little more serious. I'm going to start to study. So I studied at a little course in Canada. And then and then I got more and more clients doing that. And then I was like, okay, well, now I don't know enough. Like I know just enough to be dangerous, as I like to say. Like I don't really know. Like I was starting to get people with like real things that they wanted to work on. And I'm like, okay, this is not just moving sofas. So I went and I studied in New York City for 3 years. I studied I would go back and forth between Toronto and New York. And I did a 3-year program, and that's actually where I met my business partner. She was the year ahead of me. So, yeah. And then once I really committed to the feng shui and I said, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And I shifted my business quite a bit to less of a project management and more of a consulting and services. And of course, with feng shui in mind, everything changed. So first of
Mm.
all, I actually my biggest thing was I ended up being on TV, which was a big deal. So I ended up getting, somehow, Stephen and Chris at the time when they had their TV
Yes.
show, they came across me. I did it at this little book. They used to do these books in Toronto called the Crave Guide. And so I was in one of these little guides, and it was for women entrepreneurs. And, they saw me and they invited me to be on a show. And I did I think almost 20 episodes
Yeah.
over 2 seasons. So that was a big deal for me. Less about people booking, but just everything just sort of, you know, I mean, just from a strictly business standpoint, the CBC linked to my website. So you can imagine,
Wow.
CBC website linking to your website. I mean, obviously things got, I got much more traction. And so I was quite busy, which was great after a while. And then doing lots of consultations in Toronto. Yeah. And I really loved it. And then, as I mentioned, Angie and I started our school in 2017, 2018. So yeah.
Wow. That's quite a story.
Yeah.
It's exciting. So for the listeners who have heard about Feng Shui, they sort of know what it is, but not quite. How would you define Feng Shui?
So I would say, bottom line, it's a mindfulness of spaces, but also it can be the built environment, or which are homes, external environments, etc. But it also has a lot to do with nature. So it's really our place as human beings within the world. And so um, most people, it literally is translated as wind and water, feng shui, wind, water. And it's actually based on an ancient poem that is this Chinese poem that essentially just sort of speaks of the perfect scenario, right? And and it's really about bringing those feelings that we have. I like to think about, let's say your favorite place, you're, I don't know, on the beach sitting there watching a sunset, or you're listening to the birds, and you're, just this thing where you just feel like you just feel like light, and you almost kind of can feel it. You get tingly. That's kind of the essence of what feng shui tries to do, is tries to bring that those experiences that you have when you're really truly plugged in mindfully into nature, um, into your own space, all right, into your everyday life. And so it can be about manipulating the space and moving things around your space. Absolutely. The art of placement is often what it's called. That's absolutely part of it. Where you put your stove, where you put your sofa, where you put your bed. These are all critical things and really important things in feng shui. But then there's also the component of is how you yourself, your own personal chi, the things that you do to strengthen your chi. And then, and your home can support you in that effort. Feng shui can be, I always say, it is a very graceful and ancient practice. It can be very simple, but yet still really, really complex.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be difficult, but it can really deliver a lot of really excellent results just doing it on a fundamental level.
Yeah, I have just personally found such a shift with the energy in where I work and live when been dabbling in it for a little bit of time. And one of the things I love about it is that it doesn't require you going to HomeSense and buying 100 more things. It actually
Mhm.
can be about reduction, which I find really interesting. It's simplification. And I actually think it doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money to start doing the small things around your
Yes.
house.
Yeah, feng shui shouldn't be you shouldn't be a feng shui consultant walking into someone's house and saying, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to take down this wall." Like, that's not what you're to do. Like, the feng shui we practice, and just one caveat is there are many different schools of feng shui,
Hmm.
and different approaches. And it is a very, very, very old, over 4,000-year-old practice. And so it's kind of deviated and split into many different schools. I mean, that's what Taoism is, sort of does. It's sort of these branches. And so there's different branches and different types of feng shui, but fundamentally, I practice the feng shui where you work with what you have, you meet the client where they are, you can do a lot of things that require more of you using your intention, placing something in a specific way, that can be either something you already have or a low cost thing that you can get brand new, because there's really something about going to get something specifically brand new and bringing it into your home with the
Hmm.
intention. It has real power to it, rather than just saying, I'll just take this and I'll move it over here. There's a difference, but it isn't expensive. It should be accessible. If you're dealing with a good consultant, they will have creative ways that to, like, if you come and say, I really find this, and then you go to your home and you're like, oh, well, this is happening. As a consultant and as a feng shui practitioner and consultant, you, with the client, you should co-create something that really makes sense for them.
Hmm.
And, when we teach our students, we give them, like, they could be, let's say it's one particular issue. There's usually like 3 or 4 different ways you can adjust that. And what adjustment is to correct it, in feng shui. And they're all, you kind of, you're like, okay, so I know the client wants to do this and it won't work in this space. And then you kind of figure out a way to adjust it that works, economically, design wise, and what you think the client will actually do as well, right? Because feng shui can get really kind of a little bit elaborate, and there's
Hmm.
sometimes
Hmm.
things that, your client's never going to do that. So don't give it to them,
Right.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, what role, if any, does intuition play when you're working with a client?
So intuition is a really interesting concept. And I also do tarot. I'm a tarot reader as well. And so, with both tarot and in a way with feng shui, intuition is essentially your brain bypassing your rational thought, right? So I believe people that know a practice really well. So if they've studied feng shui fairly well, they've studied the tarot, whatever it is, and they know the mechanics of it, and the tools of it. You go into a space and you think it's intuition, but it's a mixture of both. Your gut kind of, saying, okay, this is what's happening, and then, instantly knowing what it is. I don't think it's a magical gift. Basically, I think it's through rote learning of a practice really, really intentionally and knowing it on a deep level. And I think it's also, being mindful and being really present and sort of like kind of not coming in with your own stuff. And that's a big part of feng shui as well, is to try to, like, get it, clear your own chi, so you don't show up going, oh, well, I think it's this. And, like,
Mhm.
I've seen going without ego going in, but you have all the tools, and you're like, and then you literally ask, like, I'll look at somebody's floor plan. I'm like, oh, how is your relationship with, your father or your brother, or do you find that you're often arguing or hard to get around? They're like, oh my God, how did you know that? And it's just, it comes out like intuition, but I mean, I'm reading the feng shui of it. And so, and some of the words that they've used or some of the things that they've said, and it's sort of where you end up. So, it can kind of sometimes be a bit of a magic trick, but it's not. I do feel that it's personally, I think it's doing it over and over and over again for a really long time.
It's an interesting explanation of intuition. I haven't actually had anyone word it like that, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense. The present piece, I think, is really important. And going into really everything being present, any, like, even a meeting, especially a job interview for, like, I work with, like, a people transitioning career, coming into a podcast episode. Like, I think everything is about coming in mindful.
Yeah, and I think when you're open and mindful, you can tap into a lot of stuff that you didn't think you knew.
Yes.
So, it's hard having insight, self-awareness, and intuition. I think they all kind of interweave. So if you're carrying a lot of crap around and a lot of stuff, and you can't, it's going to be really hard for you to show up to help someone else or to look at something else if you're kind of looking at through this lens of all of these other things. So it's part of the practice is, we even have a meditation that we do before we go to see a client, a particular meditation, a particular mantra that we chant, a particular visualization. And we call it boring the Buddha's chi. And because, a lot of the feng shui we practice comes from Buddhism. And so you're essentially dropping away your own ego and you're stepping in to borrow the Buddhist chi so that you can look at things through those eyes. And so, and then I think that concept of coming up and showing up really clear and present, and then just knowing that you have the knowledge, that you have the tools, that you know what you're doing is the intuition. For me anyway, that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I love this. Can we talk a hot minute about clutter?
Yeah.
Because I'm not great with clutter. I like things like to a certain extent, but my personal, like, I guess on Instagram, they would say your toxic trait is when I'm overwhelmed, I start like purging stuff. Like forget cleaning. I will start like tossing things out. I will like just randomly go into the garage, take stuff out. Like, what is that all about?
Yeah, I think it's different. So in feng shui, we look at the personal chi. Everyone has slightly different signatures of personal chi, and we like to overlay the 5 elements. So the 5 elements are, it doesn't matter where you start, but wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And those 5 elements each have different signatures, different characteristics. And so clutter is a really great way to sort of look at this through this lens. So clutter means different things to different people. And for somebody, it might be absolutely easy for them to go in, as you just said, and just start to throw stuff out and say, you know what? I need to make space in my head. I need to make space in my life. And so that's a very metal way of doing things. That's a very, metal is very much about purging, stripping away. And then if you're metal out of balance, you have so much metal or you're so metal that you almost lack. You move into the way of lacking things because you've pulled away people, you've pulled away things. So there's nothing wrong with every so often saying, I am like, you have that metal spark up and you're like, I need to purge, I need to organize, I need to clear, I can't think. I need this quiet. I need, and so this is the balancing of the 5 elements, right? So you were expressing your metal side at that particular time, but there are some people that can't even conceive of doing that. It is debilitating for them to remove things. And, they find in things, they find comfort. And so we often look at that as being somebody that might be earth out of balance. And it depends on the kind of clutter, right? Because that also says something about people. So because people that are really, either they have too little or too much earth chi, they, things are, for an earth person, are nurturing. Things are stuff. Stuff makes an earth person that is out of balance feel comfort, right?
Yes.
So, I always say for somebody that I'm working with that has a lot of earth chi in them, they either surround themselves with tons of people, they want to feed them, they want to like always have it like, nurturing, and, or they have like a lot of things. And I, try to make a beautiful collection of your things, because they obviously they're like, I know, like, I need to get rid of this clutter. Like, I get it. But you have to be patient because every person is different. So clutter is kind of a new thing. When feng shui first showed on the scene, over 4,000 years ago, there was no such thing as clutter. And so it wasn't something that feng shui geomancers ever thought about or talked about. But it is a very modern and often Western, issue, right? Just having a lot of too many things,
Yes.
and it just taking over your life and how to deal with that. And I like to be kind to people because it can be a real trigger. Like when you were saying like that, a lot of people are like that. They have that capability to sort of gain control. That may be a way of them gaining control of a situation when they're overwhelmed.
Me wanting
and
control?
That makes sense. And that makes sense because it's a very metal thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's good. It balances you out. And then there's other times where you're like, oh no, I can handle this. I'm good. I want this. Like, because sometimes people like to have a little bit of a mess when they're on their desks, when they're being creative, when they're working. That's important. So yeah, clutter is a really complex subject.
Thank you for that. Because I do think it's complicated. And I do think there's this weird movement, well, you've seen it, to go super minimalist. And I'm wondering if that's really disrupting certain people's chi because they need the stuff. They need the grounding. they need certain sentimental things around them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I definitely have sentimental pieces that I have to have, and most of them are in my office. A lot of them you'll see behind me, but just off camera, there's even more sentimental things. They have to be in my workspace to ground me.
Yeah, and there is nothing wrong with that. There is no right way to do it. It's when it starts to what we like to look at as feng shui practitioners is when is it blocking or holding you back? And there's ways where you can look at it. You can look at what's happening on the floor plan and in the using the bagua or using different things. And it's also a really great awareness exercise for some people. So you're like, oh, I get it. It's totally fine what you've got going here, but just so you know, like all of those boxes and things that you've collected and you really want to, that's in this particular area of your life that has to do with, I don't know, helpful people, let's just say. And if you want to invite more helpful people into your house, you're going to have to make space for it because right now, there is no room for more helpful people, any helpful people in your life. And when client or people hear that, they're like, okay, then it's sort of helps them kind of think about it in a different way. And that's really the beauty of feng shui is it gets you to deal with your crazy crap in a really fun and productive way.
Yeah.
And so it can help you and you can help a lot of people by being able to, it's almost like they take themselves out of the situation. Obviously you still have to deal with your own stuff at times, but it's a good starting point, right? To be able to work in your home.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you explain what the bagua is again for our listeners? That was one of the first things that I learned, that just even that knowledge really helped me understand the landscape and the energy of my house.
Yes. So the bagua is, for lack of a better term, a map. It is, we refer to it in our book as a mandala, and it's an energy map. So it is a sort of abstract concept of a map that you would lay over many things. Mainly, you're going to lay it over your home. So if you imagine you're looking at a plan of a floor plan, a two-dimensional floor plan, you would, in order to figure out how this metaphysical map floats over your home, you would draw a grid on top of your floor plan. That's just a really basic way of doing it. There's some rules about how it lays, but essentially that's it. And you're dividing a space. Let's take your bedroom, for example, because bedrooms are usually perfectly square. Generally, they're square or rectangular. You're going to turn that space into a 9x9 grid. Like you're going to imagine that you have this like invisible, transparent thing that's floating over your bedroom that is an evenly distributed 3x3 grid, 9 pieces. So 3x3. So there's 9 sections. And so the bagua is made up of 8 guas and then the center. And so a gua in Chinese translates as direction. So bagua means 8 directions. And so each of these different areas or guas is aligned with a million different things, but they kind of are different parts of your life or different energies, different seasons, different, so many layers. But people think of them, if you just Google it, you're going to get like career, wealth, relationships, children, health, helpful people, like I mentioned, knowledge, fame and reputation. And so all of these areas are the kind of one word things that you can get for them, but within that lies many layers. And so as a feng shui practitioner, what it allows us to do is we can map someone's home or bedroom or anything really, and it gives us information. So it's like, okay, so that's where I would ask, like, let's say, do you have many helpful people in your life, or do you find it hard to have people come? And, would be because in that particular gua, it's called Chen in Chinese, but it has to do with helpful people, travel, synchronicity, things coming into your life, ease, things like that, heaven, all those things that would, let's just say it's compromised or it's filled with boxes of, I don't know, something. That would just be a really kind of a basic way, but it allows us to map it out. And so for like in our book, we actually walk through how to lay it because it can be a bit tricky sometimes. And then you can understand a little bit more, right? Like, the big one is, I have a toilet in my wealth area, which everyone always freaks out. Everyone freaks out about.
I have that.
Right? We have a podcast about that.
Yes.
We literally have a podcast. Oh my God, there's a toilet in my
I gotta go to that. I gotta go to that episode.
Yeah.
Yes, I've done a few things. And for me, it's like what I love about it is, and you're talking about this throughout the whole conversation here, is really seeing your house and your space through a different lens and being conscious and aware of how things are. Because so many times we're just going through the motions. We stick a plant here, we throw a painting here. We're not thinking about how it's affecting our space.
Yeah. I think the nice thing about feng shui is if you choose to do it. So not everything needs to be feng shui, but let's say you're feeling like if things aren't just working for you in your home, or you just feel like your chi is low, your energy is low, or something's off, it can be a really powerful tool for you to be able to combine the way you lay out your home with feng shui principles. So we would never say, at the expense of what you think you love or you like, you should always do this feng shui. There is a way to combine the two. And that's where it gets creative and also, not challenging, but it can be fun to try to figure out, okay, how can I make this work for this particular space? Or how can I make it with this particular client because they don't like clutter or they don't like art or like, you know what I mean? There's different, you have to come up with different ways.
Mhm.
So it's a mindfulness of space, absolutely, so that you yourself can practice and you can do some really simple, basic things on your own. But then for anyone out there listening, if it gets to the point where it's hard to do your own feng shui
Yeah.
sometimes. It's fun to do little things here and there and play with it and just see how it feels. 100%. I mean, we have an entire podcast and that's really all we talk about is easy things to do. And the book itself is a way to sort of do your own feng shui for a bit. But for some people that really feel that there is a major block or there's something going on or they're
Mm.
having a bad run of luck or something like that, then working with someone that can somebody's, else that can kind of look at it a little more objectively might be a good thing to do. Yeah.
100%. An objective set of eyes. I mean, this comes down to something very simple as asking for help, getting help,
Yes.
which a lot of
Absolutely.
us don't
Yeah.
do. And to your point, when you're feeling stuck, it's like we sometimes go very insular thinking, I need to figure out all the answers.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll get something that sparks, maybe this episode, something will spark the idea that maybe I need a feng shui specialist to come in. But
Mhm.
it's extending and asking for help and kind of getting that different perspective that I think can be life-changing. I know so many times I've reached out to people or gotten their opinions on something, and I never see things the same way. It's completely
Yeah.
transformative.
Yeah. I would say that, it's interesting. I've talked to a lot of clients over the years, and I didn't at the time I realized I'm the first person that they've spoke to about something pretty heavy
Mm,
sometimes too. And so, as feng shui practitioners, we have to say, okay, I'm not a therapist, but I can
yes.
do
Yep.
this. And so there is, I think there's a continuum. And I would say that anyone that's interested in the practice, they should 100%, you know, listen to our podcast, buy our
Mhm.
book, go online, see what comes up and play around with the practice and see if it resonates with you for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the biggest transformations that you've seen with your clients?
So between my clients and my students, because often my students are my clients because
Mhm.
we end up feng shuiing their homes as well when they come on. We do we work with them. Um, One particular person, really, I remember speaking with her on the phone and her life went to just in the shitter. Sorry, it was just like really bad. She'd had a really devastating thing happen to her. And so we ended up she was, wanting to rally and change her life and do all these things. And so we working with her, we looked at her bedroom and we did some really simple changes to her bedroom. And it turned out that her bed was in the wrong position. She was, her bed was near a toilet, like different things like that, in feng shui that we would correct. And she had such a massive change and shift in her whole life. Um, Partly was the feng shui, putting things into the right. I'm a feng shui practitioner. Obviously, I believe that these things work. But also, she took charge of her life and
Mm,
she felt empowered
mm.
and she loved doing them to the point where she ended up, becoming a student. And, and she's still one of our grads and stuff. Um, and she just, she would say it's completely changed her life. Um, and then I had another story of, people looking for relationships. I've had some good luck with helping them there, doing some things with finding a partner. There's some fun things you can do around that. And again, I believe that it is a combination of doing something in the energetic level of your home with using feng shui principles and also doing the mundane. And the mundane is is what you would do, your personal work. It's like, okay, so yes, you're going to do this, but you also need to do this, because you need to, I don't know, leave the house if you want to meet someone. You know what I mean? Do
Open
these
the
things, or
door and go
open the
out the
door,
door.
talk to people you don't know,
Yeah.
or seek this. And so it's people feel more courageous to do some of that personal work, like the mundane, kind of
Yeah.
getting out into the world or looking for the job. And when they have the companion of feng shui, it's funny. It's like they know that they've got like a little launch pad or leap pad that they've created at home in order to support them to go do their work in the world. So I always like to pair, a feng shui adjustment with like something you physically do in your house with something so we have these, sounds like fancy. We have what we call transcendental cures. It sounds like really, but essentially it's very much a mindfulness ritual where you're doing some things where you're really trying to plug in your energy into what you're doing. And then of course the mundane work. So it could be like, okay, I want you to make a list of 9 places that, let's say they want to upgrade their skills and they want to go back to school, 9 programs, every week you're going to research or go visit, something like that they have to like check off. And so it's a combination of those 3 layers and using feng shui to kind of pull it all together.
Well, there's no escaping the mundane in life, and especially if you're achieving or working towards any goal. But what it sounds like is that this kind of gives you a little bit of almost the energy to do it, the motivation to do it. And sometimes I hate the word motivation because it feels short-lived, but it's just you feel inspired to do it, or it doesn't feel as much of a struggle to do those small things that you need to get done.
Yeah, and I think there's also the element, I think in what I do is the beauty of it and the joy and the fun of it. So, often if somebody's kind of really like, oh, I don't know, we'll find an adjustment that brings in a little beauty and a little creativity. And then that sparks something in them. That sparks this kind of joy, this excitement. It gets them going. And there is the absolute feng shui of it. For instance, maybe we hung a feng shui crystal in a particular part of the bagua and we say, okay, we're hanging this here. We're going to do the ritual around it. You're going to empower, you're going to set your intention. And this represents, your journey to whatever it is, whatever they're working on. And it sparks, it obviously moves the energy in the home because that's what that it does as an adjustment, but it also just changes something in them. And, I always say to clients or students, the decision when you decided to contact me to do a consultation or to start to research becoming a feng shui consultant is the day your chi started to change.
Yes. I think that's whenever we make the decision to move forward, to work with someone, to like take that leap of faith. Intention is everything, the decision and then the intention, and then it just gets the ball rolling. I do feel like that is very true.
Absolutely.
Well, when I was emailing you, I was mentioning that when I started looking at my space more objectively and stepping back, I had this realization that in the relationship corner of my house, I had these 2 beautifully framed photographs that were given to me as a gift. But I looked at them one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm letting these be on my wall, to be honest. One was like a cactus, like in a desert. Another one was a derelict house, like decrepit, like falling apart. Can I tell you how many house issues we had when we moved into this house, right? So our house is from 1965, so there's inevitably things going on. We moved in very tumultuous time. I suddenly it was this mind-blowing moment. I was like, what, and I'm a visual person. How am I letting these stay on my wall? Like, I'm basically giving them permission to live on my wall and take up my energy. So they came down and we revamped that area quite a bit. And now we also have a money tree that's just loving life in that corner. So,
perfect. Was it in your wealth corner?
No, this is my relationship corner. My wealth
corner. Oh, it was in your relationship.
My washroom.
Okay, that's
and
your
relationships with, that's with everybody, right? So, we just happen to have the most light. So the plant
it can also be you because as a woman, so it's also the mother and the female energy.
Oh, interesting. Well, we've changed it up quite a bit and basically brought it to life because I was like, this is a death corner. This is a death corner.
Yes.
And I was amazed how, that was the beginning of everything. I know that shift made a huge difference.
Yeah. I think until people try it themselves, it's kind of, some of your listeners might be like, oh, I don't know. and I know, I get it. I speak to a lot of people about this, but, you can try something just really small and see how it feels. So here's an example. One of the biggest things is your bed position. I mean, that's kind of like paramount number one thing. Like if you are a feng shui practitioner going into someone's home, you look at their bedroom first and the position of the bed or how the bed is positioned. Now, I don't practice the compass direction, so you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry if it's
Oh,
pointing
okay.
or if you're pointing north, south, doesn't matter. And even if you did practice that, fundamentally, they don't actually look at that sometimes. Often they're like, you don't want to be, compromised just by directions, because the most important thing for your bed position is to be in what we call the command or commanding position. And so when you're lying in bed, you need to be able to see the entryway to your
Hmm.
bedroom. And because you need to be able to not only greet opportunities that are coming, but actually lower your stress level and your, being. It's this, but it's two things. One, it's on an energetic level. It's the command of your energy and of what's coming at you in your life. But it also can reduce anxiety. It can improve sleep. It can help if you just can't get ahead. You find that the same issue is recurring over and over and over again. And so being in command and being able to see the entryway into your bedroom, the door or entryway into the bedroom is one of the biggest things that you can do fundamentally. And I find that most people that I have given that to um, have found that it's been a really big shift for people. Sometimes we give it and they're like, I don't know. I mean, I can't move it. And I can talk, if you can't move it, there's a way to do it. But, and there's a difference between I don't want to do it and I can't do it. Right. So I think we found like, because there's ways if you can't because there's a closet or a window or the configuration, then there's, you can find different ways to adjust it. But that's a big one, being in command.
Yes, that makes so much sense to me. It's like that just as you're talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, I could see your cortisol just dropping down when you're in
Yeah.
that position. And we also changed around our bedroom quite a bit. We were always facing the door, but we had to just actually, in order for us to move our bed around to a better position, I had to my husband had made this beautiful long headboard. And I was like, nope, we're literally sawing this and chopping it off because I want to go on the other wall. So I
Right.
had him like sawed off. It's much smaller. I was like, just get rid of this. They were beautiful shelves that he made. It's like chopping them off and moved it around. I have been so much happier ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, your bedroom makes a big difference. Yeah, it can make a big impact. And then you can also be in command for your desk too, to be able to see the main door into your bed, into your office as well.
Well, I find this is huge in the corporate space because this can be very challenging because a lot of the times you're in these cubicles and you're shoved in weird positions and you don't have that sense of command and people are creeping up on you all the time and it's just adding to your stress levels.
Absolutely.
And you're more it is more challenging in corporate. You can't be just like, you know what? I would like to change my space. I would like to
Yeah,
go over
often you
here.
can't.
You
Sometimes you don't
can't.
even have sometimes you don't even have your own desk, you're hoteling or something. And
Yeah.
so, you can't even put anything. So that's something that we deal with a lot. We talk to a lot of people about
Yeah,
that.
this
Yeah.
hoteling thing, I'm personally not a fan. I mean, I think for most creative people, I think it's disturbing.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know
can be
what other word to
yeah.
think about because
Yeah,
you need your little tchotchkes or your things or I just think creative people especially just think differently and they have to have visual, especially the graphic designers who work with visual
yeah,
things around them to stimulate, to inspire them and things
absolutely.
like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about shifting energy. What is a simple way for people to kind of shift the energy in their space? You've talked about the bedroom. What are
Mhm.
some other small tips that you can give to people so that they can go away and start making some shifts?
So I would think the next thing that people can look at is their front door. So the front door is what we refer to in feng shui as the mouth of qi, because it's where most of the energy enters the home. So taking a little bit of an audit and reviewing what that looks like for you. So if you have your own, like if you have a home that's sort of out on, you can walk up from the street level, notice how what that trip is like up the front, those front stairs and going in. Is it obstacle? Is it hard? Is it hard to see? Is it well lit? Do you have a nice number? All of those things are really, really important because the chi is opportunities. it's energy, it's all these great things. It's, some people might say, I feel like I'm being passed up. I don't feel like people are looking at,
Mm.
I'm not being seen. And so you need to make sure that that front door is visible, that people are able to, because that's your face, that's your voice to the world and your face to the world. And then if you're in an apartment building, it's okay, just making sure that there's only so much you can do in an apartment building. But when you open the door, what's the first thing you see when you walk in? That's for everyone. What's the first sight? I often like to add something really beautiful. Maybe if you're feeling your chi is a little low, or you're not getting that kind of recognition or opportunities, or you want to spark something a little bit more, add a little bit of red to somewhere either on the outside of the door or just inside the door, or, somewhere that I like to think it kisses the chi. So it sort of energizes that chi when it enters into the home.
Mm-hmm.
But the front door is a big deal. And then look, like, can you open the door fully? Is it hitting a bunch of shoes? And is it kind of swinging back and hitting you because it's got a bunch of stuff behind it? Is it not? Is it squeaky? Is it like sticky when you're trying to open it? Is all of these things mean something in feng shui? And so repairing those things, clearing out the clutter behind the door, or making it easy to go in and out of your space in the front door is really, really important.
Yeah, I love that. And it makes so much sense. Again, everything you're saying makes so much sense when you explain it, because it's kind of a first impression. It's like the beginning of how you come home. It's like what you're saying to the world. For me, it was like recognizing where the aggravation points are is really important. Like the thing that doesn't close properly, to your point, the cupboard door that sticks. Those tiny aggravations are like almost like micro aggregations. Over the course of a day, we have so much stress already. It's like we're just adding on top of our stress.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of layers of that in feng shui too, in terms of doors and hallways and how the space lays out. That can lead to that kind of over time, just the erosion of, your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing is, there's might be some people, because they always ask this question, is what if I come in my garage door? What if I always walk in through the garage door and I never use my front door? We get this question all the time. The answer is you should use your front. You don't have to come in every day from work from your front door. That's fine. But you need to use your front door at least once a week minimum. Um, and get the mail from that front door, open it, sweep it. It needs to be used, because in feng shui, what we call a door that is never opened or shut is called what we call a dead door. And a dead door is basically where it's kind of doesn't exist anymore, and it's like it's a point. It's no longer a portal for energy. It's just kind of been a shut off point. So you want to make sure that doors can open fully. If you have a door, any kind of door, and you want to make sure it can open fully without problem, it's not blocked, because doors represent portals of energy, but also voices. Your voice, depending on where this door is. So you know, use that door, even if you're just going there to open or walk the dog out the front door or do something, but try to use it at least once a week. So
That's an incredible tip and something I wouldn't have thought of. So I appreciate that. I
no
think that's
problem.
going to help a lot of listeners.
People always ask that.
Okay, well, amazing. Okay, so I want to ask a question I ask all my guests, and that is, in the spirit of helping people ditch the struggle, what do you feel is the most important thing to commit to?
I think if you are leaving whatever it means for you to start ditching the struggle, for me, it meant, not that I was struggling, but I was going to go from a 9 to 5 job where somebody else told me when to be there, to my own gig and figuring out my own schedule, which I found challenging in itself. The pacing of an entrepreneurship versus a day-to-day corporate job is very different. You have to not have this sense that I need to be working all the time, because you're just, you will be working because you'll be thinking about it all the time. But my one thing would be to be open to changing the way you do things. If you're a very strategic thinker, a very sort of vision planning person, and you have your okay, I've got my plan. Here's my strategy. Here's how I'm going to unfold. Be prepared to have your vision be flexible, to be able to change your vision and not feeling like you're failing, because depending on what you came from, I came from marketing, I came from strategic planning. If you go off your strategic plan, or you don't keep doing your mission, like what are you even doing, right? But it's different in entrepreneurship. You just, especially if you're just starting, you don't know what you don't know yet. You have to start to figure out like you have to like constantly be adjusting. So I feel like flexibility and being kind to yourself and the same rules that you applied in corporate do not necessarily work in entrepreneurship, I would say.
Thank you for saying that. And thank you for reminding me about that, because there's just many days where I do have the corporate brain and it kind of gets drilled into you, and I do apply it to what I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm off task, I'm off strategy, I'm not doing enough. Like I didn't put in 9 hours of full working today, but meanwhile I was thinking about it for 24 of those hours, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, so thank you for saying that. I think that's going to help a lot of people. Laura, where can everyone find you? And please remind us about your book.
My book, our book, Angie and I's book, is called Mindful Living, The Everyday Magic of Feng Shui. And it can be found on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca and also all bookstores. And you can find me on the Mindful Design School is my website. So that's where all of the info is about what I do and my school and my teaching that I do with Angie. And the handle for Instagram is at Mindful Design School.
Yes, and you guys both have so many amazing tips, and your podcast is amazing as well, and which is the Holistic Spaces podcast.
Yeah.
Amazing. I know what episode I'm diving into later today, so I will put all of this information in the show notes below, and I really want to thank you for helping us learn about Feng Shui and about your career journey.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.